So before we get to Lawrence, let's get to the big three.
Number 3.
Together we will freeze the, make buses fast and deliver universal.
Oh, can you believe this? Socialistic chants. The nation is getting to know Zoran Mamdani, and skeptics are multiplying by the day as his socialist Marxist beliefs and policies are revealed by him, not found out. He's talking about it. We talk about this and how it's playing out on the national field.
Number 2.
President Trump had hoped, I think admirably, that he might be able to settle this war, but the Alaska summit was a bust. And although he talked yesterday about being willing to impose economic sanctions against Russia, I think most people are guessing right now that's simply not going to be enough.
Putin has pushed Trump too far as the attacks on Ukraine civilians heat up. Look for major announcements this week as he's also tightening the noose on Venezuela while pushing China out of South and Central America. We'll explain.
Number 1.
Look, I think it's worth being taken out of context. If I say we're going to war, we're going to war with the criminal cartels. And Governor Pritzker protects criminal, illegal alien, public safety threats every day in that state, along with Mayor Johnson. We proved that.
Crime crackdown. Will they be putting stakes down in Chicago any minute as the pro-crime protesters step up? If you haven't noticed, Maryland and California have bulked up their law enforcement on their own to stop Trump from coming in. But by the way, that's exactly what he wants, right, Lawrence Jones?
That's right. Took him long enough to understand this is the way you win. You can't be soft on crime. If you don't want the feds there, if you don't want the National Guard, then do your job.
Right, and they're not. And even for example, if you need some federal help, all you have to do is say, yes, let's just work it out. If I was Pritzker, I would have visited Washington. And you just say, hey, okay, the South Side needs this, but we don't really want National Guard here. What I could use is this. But what the president wants is to get the illegal immigrants, criminals out. And for some reason, Chicago wants to hold on to them.
Honestly, Brian, it would behoove the Democrats to work with the president on getting the worst out of the country first, because then you don't have these one-off stories that you hear about of a person that was working in the country 20 plus years, yada, yada, yada. If you work with the president to get the criminals out here, that's a win for both of you.
Here's Tom Hoffman on CNN yesterday. Cut 2.
So should we expect action in Chicago this week?
Absolutely. You can expect action in most sanctuary cities across the country. President Trump's prioritized sanctuary cities because sanctuary cities knowingly release illegal alien public safety threats to the streets every day. That's where the problem is. We don't have that problem in Florida where every sheriff and chief works for us, right? Or Texas.
Right. They don't have that problem in Florida. So remember I was telling you about what Baltimore's doing. Mm-hmm. Baltimore is third on homicides, right? But they say that they're turning the corner on it. But got some legitimate questions to the mayor. Cut 5.
So you're saying there's a total coincidence that Trump's threats to send troops into the city came at the same time as these additional troops are additional law enforcement from your state are being deployed. It's a coincidence?
This is about strategic deployment, right? This is what this is. For us, it's a strategic initiative that we have been working and asking for, and now that they have the people that they can actually do that, and now that we know we can further the partnership, because again, state police are working in the city, other state police officers, NTA police are working in the city each and every day.
So the host from CNN even said, come on, just admit it. You're bulking up to keep Trump out.
They seem so disingenuous. They're just lying to people when they have this point of view. Everyone knows that there's a crime problem in Baltimore. The president was going to send the big guns in. That's the federal government to handle it. And to get ahead of that, they decided to, which is actually a good thing, to show the president, okay, we already got this under control right now. At least we're putting the manpower in place.
Here's more from Brandon Scott, cut 6.
We understand those numbers, but we also understand that last year was another consecutive year of historic reductions in gun violence in the city of Baltimore, and that we know the National Guard doesn't work. You're talking about, you and I are right now talking when Baltimore has the fewest amount of homicides through this date on record. Why now? Why not during the president's first term when gun violence was through the roof?
Well, he's learned from that, and I'll add to that too. He's saying historic lows, but still the third.
Thank you. I'm so glad you said that, Brian, because that's the part that continues to drive me crazy. All these cities continue to say, okay, yeah, but we brought it down. Baltimore is 3 or 4 on the list. Chicago had 11 people last weekend and 6. Brian, when we went on the air at first, it was 5. By the time we got off of air, it was 6 people that was killed over the weekend. So you're bragging about numbers while there's still a bloodbath happening in your community.
So I also noticed this. I'm saying, what is that? I was just walking by the TV on Saturday, and I go, what's going on? So in Chicago, they were having a protest. No Trump, no troops protest to make sure the streets of Chicago stay unsafe, I guess. So what they're trying to say is National Guard is a force multiplier. And you mentioned that they're going to play a role if ICE starts getting overwhelmed. Right. They have to have somebody to come in, especially when you told your cops not to back up ICE, right?
That's right. And I talked to Raymond Lopez, who's an alderman in Chicago, and he told me most of the people that are out there protesting are paid people, and they're not from Chicago. He goes, when I talk, and look, I've been to Chicago so many different times, talk with the leaders there, the pastors there, the activists there, the people that want change. All of them say, we need help. We need the National Guard. We need more cops.
So Curtis Sliwa, who would do a great job in New York as a Republican, the odds are against him, was on with me with One Nation last night, Cut 9.
He doesn't want anybody locked up for misdemeanors of any type. He doesn't want anybody incarcerated. Nobody would be put into prison. So immediately we're in the midst of this gang retaliatory crime wave where blood is flowing in the streets of New York City. He doesn't have an answer for that. And I'm the only candidate who's the law and order candidate. I'm the Republican. I say you take gangbangers and you lock them up. That's how you do away with gang violence. He believes you have social workers coddle them. But notice, his entourage now are armed, trained NYPD police officers that are with him 24/7 to protect him. Yet he wants social workers instead of police. Hit him on the issues he's vulnerable.
And that's Mamdani and his view on crime.
Can I be honest? Everything that Curtis said was accurate there. The problem is the packaging. And I don't think there's a real movement behind him because of the packaging. He is a household name in New York City because everybody remembers the Guardian Angels and what he did historically fighting against crime. But the hat, and a lot of people don't see him as a serious candidate. He has the right message. I can't disagree with anything that he said right there. He would definitely be better than any other candidates there. But politics is only half policy. It's the packaging as well and the visuals.
Right. James Carville says that the Democrats are on a roll. He says they've won every election since 2024, and he says they're going to win in New Jersey and they're going to win big in Virginia.
Maybe.
But he said this about crime, Cut 11.
And I just saw a poll in New Orleans where crime is down is an issue. In other words, when the crime drops, people do feel it somewhat. But it's an idiotic argument to say it's not a problem because people face it in their everyday lives. But we do know there are things that work. And as opposed to doing something that's just all for show, implement things that work. More policemen. 100,000 cops would do a lot more good than 5,000 guardsmen who are not trained to fight crime.
But your party defunded them. Your party defunded them. What are you talking about? We all agree that more cops would have solved this issue, but your party was anti-cop. Then you guys, with your buddy George Soros, got all these crazy lunatic DAs all across the country to release the criminals back. So, yes, we agree fundamentally that more cops would solve this, but you guys have been demonizing them.
And they got to be empowered when they're in there.
Right.
So they got to, like, once they get in there, they got to know if they make an arrest, the guy's going to stay in jail. It all builds on each other. If I have to make this arrest, he's going to be out in 24 hours, and they say it when you're arresting them.
Yeah.
And they come out, so they're not going to bother because this is dangerous. And number two is they just say, and people out there go, these guys are back on the streets. Why do I want to press charges? I got to face the criminal the next day.
And Brian, it has to be consistent. It can't be the latest viral video of one cop that made one bad decision, maybe or maybe not. And that determines policing for the whole country. That's stupid. That's idiotic to say that we're going to defund cops, get them off the street over one bad cop's decision.
When we come back, what the next step, I hope, is with the president of Ukraine, Lawrence Jones, a few more minutes. You're listening to the Brian Kilmeade Show. Don't move. All right, we are back. Thanks so much for listening, everybody. So we have a few more minutes with Lawrence Jones. Lawrence, over the weekend, I think hundreds of drones hit Ukraine. Well, what else is new? How about 800? And how about hitting a government building? Basically, their parliament building. They're trying to take the whole country. They can't do it with a standing army, but they're trying to do it through the drones and just wear these guys out while talking to Trump. I think it's an insult to the president.
Well, Brian, it wasn't just the government building; it was the civilians as well.
Yeah.
I mean, these weren't military targets.
Hit apartment buildings.
They went after the. I guess you can make an argument that the prime minister. They probably would make an argument is fair game, but the civilians there, you just really can't do that.
They did an assassination too at one of the lawmakers. He just killed him in cold blood right in the street. Guy got away with it. It seems. Here's what President Trump said. I think he's ready to do something. Cut 12.
Well, we're going to see. I mean, we have some very interesting discussions. You know, certain European leaders are coming over to our country on Monday or Tuesday, and individually. And I think we're going to get that settled. I think we're going to get it settled.
You know what surprised me, Brian? Maybe this is a larger debate. First of all, I agree with you that the president is annoyed now, and Putin is doing his same old trick. He talks to the president in the day and he says, I'm going to stop the killing. I want a deal. And then at night, he goes after civilians. But what fascinated me is I didn't realize that the Europeans were still buying Russian oil. I mean, are you guys crazy? Are we in this together or not? Either we're going to have maximum pressure on the Kremlin or not. And that means no buying anything from complete isolation.
Here's what Zelensky said is the key to stopping Putin. Cut 17.
The most power has White House, and I really count that President Trump will do it with pressure on Putin. And this is only one way how to stop the killer. You need to take off his weapon. Energy is his weapon.
Get the price of oil. Now it's at $62. Got to get it down to 40. Right? See if Saudi Arabia will work with us on that. So we have to start drilling. Evidently, we have not started drilling. We're speculating. There's no refinery in the works. We have to go do that and force the price of oil because they are a gas station.
By the way, Brian, real quickly, do you see the change in Zelensky? He is not combating the president. He's singing the same tune, consistent message, while still advocating for his people. In the long run, I think that's going to get the president to act quickly. Also, the other secret weapon, Melania Trump. She's furious about this, constantly in the president's ear about this, about the children and the women that have been.
And Russia's threatened Eastern Europe.
That's
and the
exactly
mindset.
Right.
You have to understand, they were dominated for generations. They finally push it off. They joined NATO for a reason. They knew the Russians were going to reconstitute and do what they do best, and that is expand beyond their borders. And it's not just Ukraine. They're already trying to affect, and they have candidates in the Moldova election. They're already doing cyber hits at the Baltics. And for some reason, mysteriously, we're pulling troops out of Eastern Europe. What are we doing? Why are we pulling troops out of Eastern Europe? Wrong message.
I was just saying this, Brian. Whether we get peace right now is only going to be a momentary thing. Putin wants all of Ukraine. He wants it. And he's not going to stop. So he may delay it for this 4 years, but another Democrat gets it, and he's going to go right back in.
But guess what? Now he's going to have a fight. Every single one of those European nations is building up. And how do we know it? They're writing checks to us.
Smart.
For weapons. And that's why we have to expand our base quickly to arm us up.
And manufacturing as well.
Norway, Finland, all these other countries. Meanwhile, on a much, much lighter note, a big story, Howard Stern, a broadcasting legend who hasn't been in the cell for 5 years. He went way woke. And his viewership went from over millions to about 120,000. But it looks like he's still going to make $50, $60 million this year, maybe more. But he tried to pull off a hoax. The word is that Andy Cohen is getting way too much attention from the executives at Sirius, and it's annoying him. So here's what he did. Listen to this.
Well, good morning, everybody. This is, I know, not the voice that you expected to hear. This is not the voice that you probably wanted to hear. But it is I, Andy Cohen. And this is our first day broadcasting on Andy 100. I know that you're expecting a big announcement from Howard, and this is actually not how things were meant to go. There's been a lot of talk about what's going to happen with Howard. Is he fired? I don't know how much I'm allowed to say, except that he's not here, and I am. Joining me, as always, is my co-host, John Hill. John, a surreal morning here. Good morning.
Sweetie, you're doing great, sweetie.
Well, thank you, sweetie.
How does it feel?
I have to say, I fantasized for years about sitting in this chair. This is not how I thought this would go down.
Right.
I feel like the body, as it were, isn't cold. Howard and the executive team at Sirius felt that it was best to kind of part ways now. If you are listening, Howard, I do love you, and I hope that after you do whatever healing needs to happen, you will come back stronger than ever. I just want all of Howard's fans to know you will have a home on Andy 100.
So what happened, Allison? What was that?
So apparently that was just a gag. Then Stern came on later, which I've yet to find that audio, saying, I'm back. I love Sirius. Things are great. I'm here for a while.
It was kind of weird, though. It's a weird way of doing it, but it did get a lot of media attention, so maybe that was the goal.
Yeah, I guess it's the goal.
A reset.
I mean, the thing is, there's nothing I want to hear. Sometimes I'll put on, and the other thing is, the other thing I never liked was the whack pack. So they have all these people with some type of malady, whether they're mentally brain damaged or they got a limp or they're just losers, and he just mocks them. And I go, okay,
that's not cool.
I know, but it doesn't stop, and all they do is talk about it. And
well, he also said that he didn't want essentially Trump voters to
said it flat out.
And I will honor your request.
Right.
We never say that about Kamala voters, Biden supporters. We never.
Do you remember we kissed Biden's ass?
Right.
I mean, he tried.
Yes.
He tried to get Biden to talk. He couldn't do it. He's like, you were a lifeguard. You're a hero. You're a lifeguard, a hero. Are you kidding? You made $4.50 an hour,
right? And
you had some kids pet your leg to make your hand stand up. Remember that?
I mean, and what was it? Corn pop?
Yeah, corn pop. Yeah, we have yet to find corn pop. Eric, I asked you to find corn pop over the weekend. Nothing.
And he is the most multicultural president we ever had. He's Puerto Rican, black.
Oh, he's
white.
everything.
Oh yeah.
He grew up in every community, and he liked gay people before anyone liked gay people. Thanks so much, Lawrence.
When I was here with you in April, there was a panic because the stock market had gone down, and you remained pretty calm, but a lot of other mainstream media people were in a complete lather over the stock market performance. President Trump, they held the views on tariffs. He was proven right. We had the quickest stock market recovery in history. We're at new highs in August, and we're not going to do economic policy off of one number. We believe that good policies are in place that are going to create good, high-paying jobs for the American people.
Scott Bessent, who is, and I think it's great for the administration to do this, good or bad job numbers, GDP numbers, the tariffs, they go out and they do interviews. They talk about it. The Treasury Secretary on Meet the Press yesterday, and he made it clear that 20,000 jobs, not good, but there is other things that are good about it. And they feel as though that a lot of this stuff is going to be revised upward. A guy that knows the reality of dollars and cents is Senator Rick Scott, former governor, now senator from New Jersey. He's on Armed Services, Homeland Committees, Government Affairs, Foreign Relations, Aging, Budget, you name it. Senator, when you saw the 20,000 instead of the 75,000 projected, what are your thoughts? What were your thoughts on Friday?
Well, first off, I think you have to be, I've never felt comfortable with the BLS numbers, number one. So I think you ought to look at trends. If you look at the last 4 years, we've stopped adding full-time jobs. We're only adding part-time jobs. So Trump walked into a really crappy economy. So I think it's going to take a while. I think it's going to take a while to get in and think about, here's what the biggest thing we can do. It's a regulatory environment, it's permitting, and that's going to take a while. When I was governor, we went from losing 832,000 jobs, or 62,000 jobs when I was 4 years before I got elected, to adding 1.7 million. The big change was not the fact that I cut taxes 100 times. It's the fact that I got rid of 20% of the regulations. I streamlined the permitting requirements, and I recruited companies to move to Florida. I came to New York, I don't know how many times, just coming up here talking to companies about get the heck out of New York, come to Florida, it's a better place to do business.
So John Deere said their net income in the most recent quarter was down 29%. Higher tariffs says cost their company $300 million so far. Also complaining is Nike says tariffs will cost their company $1 billion. Black & Decker says $800 million. The big three automakers say they're going to lose $2 billion in tariffs. How do you feel about what do these numbers mean to you?
Well, first off, we finally have a president that is focused on getting American jobs. So what we've got to do is we've got to bring these jobs back to this country. It's gonna cost these companies, they're gonna have to reinvest in this country. They're gonna have to find out ways to use automation to compete. But look, we have lost our manufacturing base. We have got to rebuild our manufacturing base in this country. We've got to do it, one, for good middle income jobs, but two, what if we go to war? If we go to war with China, what are we going to do if we're not building things in this country? And right now, that's exactly where China wants to go. So we've got to do it. I'm glad the president is focused on how do we get American jobs. But the biggest thing I think is going to happen is we've got to make it easier to build a company, easier to start a company, easier to compete with all these crazy state, local, and federal regulations.
Yeah, I guess so. I think you're right. You also are looking at a situation where a court case the Supreme Court is now looking at could either cause chaos or keep us on course. And that is, legal experts say it's 50-50 because they ruled that the president might not have the authority, a lower court did, to issue these tariffs without Congress to do this because they don't believe it's an emergency or how the case was presented. So now it's up to the Supreme Court to get to this case. Number one, do you know when they're going to get the case? And on April, doesn't this decision go into play in October?
Well, hopefully the Supreme Court will take it up quickly, hopefully this month. I don't think they've announced when they're going to take it up. Everybody I've talked to at the White House, they feel very comfortable they're going to win. All right. And if you just look at Trump, all these court cases he's had, he wins. They all start out saying, "Oh, he can't win. He seems to win. He's got a hat they gave me. Trump has always been right, or whatever it is. Right? He does win." And so I'm optimistic that his policies are going to get this economy back on track. If you think about what do people want? He got elected because they want a secure border. He got it. They wanted inflation to come down. Right? It's come down. All right, and they want jobs back. They want jobs in this country.
So, Senator, you have a problem. I think it's over 100, between 100 and 200 nominees, undersecretaries, deputy secretaries, UN ambassador. 141. They're stuck. So you got almost no one through except Jeanine Pirro last cycle. And the word is there's rule changes that are going to be implemented as early as today to unstick them. In layman's terms, what maneuverability do you have?
So for the first time ever, the Democrats have just completely blocked the ability to get Trump nominees through. Mm-hmm. Right? We didn't do it with Biden. And they did not as bad in the Trump term. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to change the rules to limit debate. All right. So hopefully these 141, most of them will get done this week by next Monday. We're going to have to change the rules. It's all caused by the Democrats saying we're not going to allow Trump to have a team. This is unfair. They're not saying, oh, we don't like them. They're just saying they didn't even think about it. They've let nobody go through without spending all the debate time. Right? That's never happened before. We did things through unanimous consent always with prior presidents. So
and you put things in piles and you do it all at once, right?
So what we're going to try to do is do 3 tranches. So we'll do it. The goal is to get it done this week, but it'll probably take until next Monday night. So we'll start tonight. Our first vote will be at 5:30. So we'll start today through the process because it will require a change of the rules.
Mike Waltz has got to get in. It's 80 years of the UN. You're going to go. September conference is going to happen. And we don't have a UN ambassador.
Oh, and Brian, on top of that, we're doing something that the Democrats have proposed in the past. Okay, and
which is okay
to put these in bigger groups.
Because you guys slow it down too, right?
So first off, what people have is you say, hey, look, I want to know something from you. I want you to answer some questions. Okay, but they don't say, oh, after you answer them, oh no, I'm not gonna ever let you go through. It's never happened like this. There's not been one nominee that all year, including Marco Rubio, who got almost everybody's vote, that went through a unanimous consent.
And the whole thing is because they want to fight Trump. They feel as though their base wants them to fight Trump. Now, when Senator Chuck Schumer said, I'm not going to do a government shutdown, I'm going to sign off on this, they almost ousted him. Makes everybody think that Schumer is going to just allow, and Hakeem Jeffries are going to allow the government to close in the next 2 weeks.
Well, it's up to Schumer. It's up to Schumer because it takes 60 votes. It takes 60 votes in the Senate. The decision will be made, by September 30. If we don't, then government gets shut down. There's only one person making the decision because Schumer controls all the votes on the Democrat side of the Senate. Nobody else has an independent vote. He controls all those votes. He will decide whether we have a government shutdown or not. Right? I mean, here's what he's always wanted. He wants to be able to be able to make the decision where we, senators that are not in leadership, top 4 people and the 2 people in the House and Senate, they'll make all decisions what we do. Here's what they'll want to do. If we do one, they'll want to do a continuing resolution and then say, oh, we've worked really hard, which they haven't. I'm on the budget committee. We don't even do budgets. All right. So we work really hard, and we'll punt till December. Then they have $1 trillion plus some stupid spending bill that nobody knows what it is, and you have to vote on it 2 hours after
when they were in the
it.
majority.
No, yeah,
but they're not going to do that now.
Oh, they've done it every year for 6 years. Even when we were the lead, okay, McConnell did it. I mean, he did the exact same thing because him and Schumer and then whoever the speaker was and the minority leader in the House, they would decide what's in it and then give us 2 hours to look at it.
Now, the president said, I remember this happened twice. He goes, I'm never signing something like this again, right? And I think he's going to hold to that.
I hope he does.
You know your leverage, and no one knows it better than you, Senator Scott, is for the president to say, yeah, you shut it down. I have a whole bunch of things I'm looking to do without Congress.
Right.
And he could start lining them up and talking about the rescission packages he's going to put together and just do and things to that nature. So do they want to let Trump run wild?
Right now, it sure looks like Schumer wants to shut down government. It's great. It's not that hard to do our job, right? Maybe have a process to approve nominees. Let it work. It's worked in the past with prior presidents. Let that work. Have real appropriations bills. Let's vote them on the floor. Let's allow amendments. But Schumer's against all these things.
So we're watching a mayor's race in New York City become a national story because you have a blatant, proud socialist Marxist running who does not, I don't really like capitalism. I don't think there should be billionaires. I'm not really for, we have way too many police. I think social workers have to be on every single, misdemeanors should not be a crime. Right? Not really into the prisons. He also is against charter schools. It's amazing how many things he's got, but he's got younger people supporting him. He's got 9% of the black vote, but I see Republicans are already putting him in ads, no matter where they're located across the country. What did Democrats say? They're paralyzed right now.
Well, I mean, first off, I'm in New York City. The city of capitalism is now going to elect a socialist. Right? When I was governor, I came up here all the time to recruit because Cuomo was the governor at the time, and I
de Blasio was your best.
Yeah, de Blasio. They were great. So because they all they did was make it hard for business. That's all they've done in New York City. So think about this: you don't want police. I want police. I mean, if something happens around my house, I want to be able to call somebody, have them show up. I like our schools have to compete. I like charter schools. We probably have the biggest charter school movement in the country. It started with Jeb Bush. He did a great job in Florida. So now we have one of the top 5 K-12 schools. We're number 1 higher education in the country. Prisons. Why do you want people in prison? You saw that young Ukrainian girl get murdered. Why wasn't in North Carolina? Wasn't that guy in prison? I mean, that guy should have been in prison for life.
Long record. Yeah.
I mean, look at all these Democrats. Let all these people out. There's, you don't have to put up any cash for bail now. I mean, and then they want to run grocery stores. As a high school and college, I worked in grocery stores. The government's going to run a grocery store. I originally grew up in Kansas City. They had a government-run grocery store. It just closed. Mm-hmm. It was dangerous. First off, it was dangerous, and they had no food. So if Mandami thinks socialism is so good, why doesn't he go to Cuba or Venezuela? Right. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. People come to my state because they want to get away from socialism.
I think it's so interesting because now you have the governor say, why you keep asking me about Mamdani? I'm, it doesn't matter. I'm from Buffalo. I don't vote. And then you have Hakeem Jeffries get all angry on CNBC that people brought it up. Why is that a big deal? I think Bernie Sanders said it best. Cut 27.
You have the President of the United States working to make it harder for him to get elected. So what are these people, these oligarchs, afraid of? What they are afraid of, brothers and sisters, is not only the question of bringing justice to New York City. You know what they're afraid of? They're afraid of Mr. Mamdani becoming an example to what can happen all over this country.
Yes, he's 100% right. That's what Democrats are more worried than Republicans are.
Well, I'm here because I care about New Yorkers. I mean, I do everything I can to recruit New Yorkers to Florida, but gosh, I don't want people. I grew up in public housing. How many people want to live in public housing? You say, oh man, I want to grow up to live in public housing. I want to grow up to be on food stamps. I want to grow up to go to that government-run grocery store. Nobody. That's not good. That's not good for New York. It's not good for this country. So if New York does it, it'll be a great example of another place where socialism fails. It's never succeeded anywhere. But I'm here because I think it's really bad for our country.
But yeah, I just think that along that way, people say, well, they'll be stopped by the governor. It's going to slow everything down. They'll be able to do a lot of things and nothing moves forward at the very least. A couple more minutes with Senator Rick Scott.
Yep.
When we come back, I want you to talk about housing because they're talking about declaring an emergency situation to try to unstick the housing market, which is stuck. Back in a moment. Hey, we are back. Senator Rick Scott and I are talking about the other big story that's going to be this week, and that is housing. Is it a crisis? Yes, it's a crisis. So the president said if we declare an emergency when it comes to housing, we'll be able to do some things. But I have not heard a good explanation of what we could do from Washington. And I don't understand the president's sensibility. I got to unstick this market. But part of the reasons, Senator Rick Scott, that people aren't buying houses is because they're in a 3% mortgage. Why is, even if it's time for you to get to a bigger house, how do you rationalize it unless you have this huge bank account to make that move now to that bigger house at 7% interest rate? You don't do it.
We have a housing affordability crisis. That's what we have, a housing affordability crisis. Now, what's it caused by? One, interest rates are up, but they're not actually. My first home, I bet my mortgage was 9%. They're not as high as they have been. All right.
What are they, around 6 now?
Yeah. So it's 6.65. I looked at this point is the average. Okay, so that's not the similar interest rates. Number two is look at what's happened to insurance. Home insurance, like I've been out of the governor 6.5 years in Florida. It's doubled in that 6.5 years. Why? Because we've allowed fraud to happen and we haven't cracked down on it. It's all across the country.
It's not natural disasters.
No, I mean, we've had natural disasters for a long time, right? Mm-hmm. But so what we've got, so that's number two, and that's the second. Number three is when I was growing up, even though I grew up in public housing, the story was, if you could buy a house, you had a 30-year mortgage, you pay it off, you're set for life. Not today. You have a HOA fee. You have high property taxes. Why do property taxes have to be this high?
Especially in Florida. By the way, they're not cheap in Florida.
So absolutely. So we've got to look. Government's got to stop making things more expensive. How do they make it more expensive? Well, there's a fee. There's a regulatory. You got to get this permit. You got to hire this lawyer. You got to hire this lobbyist. You got to do this, and you got to do this, and then you got. I mean, what government has done, all right, is they've at every level they have all these rules, all these regulations. Let people go compete, and they'll come up with better ideas.
Trump is a master at cutting regulation. He did the first time, even better than he thought. It wasn't him personally, but he gave everyone a mandate. What could the HUD secretary do?
Well, so HUD is not generally involved in the regulatory environment. Most of the regulatory environment is going to be state and local. It's almost on the housing. It's almost all state and local. Like when I became governor of Florida, the Village is the most successful residential real estate development in the world. There was a state law that stopped them from growing.
So making the villages the villages.
Yeah, Yeah. They were limited. They were going to be limited to 102,000 people. I got rid of that regulation and the guy that was doing it. And guess what? Now they have affordable housing. They have nice housing. It's safe. And I think 60,000 people live there or something today. Get out of the way. Let the private sector figure this out. Quit having all these environmental rules and this rule and that rule.
So it's a little frustrating. So you're saying there's not much you can do the way you.
Well, at every level, as voters, we've got to start demanding something different out of our elected. We got to say, I'm sick and tired of being told what to do. I love my mom. I hate being told what to do. When you go vote for a local official, a mayor, a city council, whatever, are you going to limit what I can do?
Yeah.
Stop.
Yeah, I guess you got an election coming up in November. You could at least identify all the problems the average people are going through. Senator Rick Scott, it's going to be an exciting off-year election because we've got Virginia and you also have New Jersey. Thanks so much for coming in today.
Great to be in. See you, Brian.
The most power has White House, and I really count that President Trump will do it with pressure on Putin. And this is only one way how to stop the killer. You need to take off his weapon. Energy is his weapon.
Yeah, and that was President Zelensky sat down with ABC's Martha Raddatz to talk about the latest attacks from Russia to Ukraine. Since the meeting in Alaska, they've done nothing but increase the cadence of the fight. The largest ever air assault on Ukraine happened early Sunday, sending over 800 drones and 13 missiles into the country. It was an hours-long attack. It hit the main government building in Kyiv and set it ablaze for the first time during the war. A Russian drone also struck a residential building in the capital, killing at least 3, including a mom and her infant son. At least 20 other people were wounded. So what does it tell you? It tells you that we have to say that the talks are done. They have no sincere interest in it. We're embarrassing ourselves by continuing to drag this along, and we have to take action. Dan Hoffman, former CIA station chief, knows Putin as well as anyone in this country, and at least how he operates, and joins us now. Dan, what does that latest attack and all the attacks since Alaska tell you?
Look, Brian, we've been saying this from the very beginning. You and I have had a number of opportunities on the radio and on television since Russia launched their brutal invasion. And it's been very consistent. Putin has one strategic goal, and that is to overthrow the democratically elected government of Ukraine. He's not stopping. We can have all kinds of discussions with Vladimir Putin, but that's not going to change his military calculus. The question is, what sort of leverage can we use on Russia? And I'm sure that's a question that President Trump is asking Director CIA Ratcliffe. What are Putin's pain points? Even if we impose secondary sanctions, is that enough? Vladimir Putin has a super high threshold for pain when it comes to his own countrymen suffering, whether it's on the front lines of Ukraine, in a meat grinder war reminiscent of World War I more than World War II, in my view, or the economic pain that he's caused his country. So I think that's the question. And President Trump can talk a lot about, the war never should have happened. We should have deterred Russia in the first place. All true, but we are where we are. And Vladimir Putin wants to assert Russia's primacy in his own self-designated sphere of influence. The last thing he wants is President Trump to win the Nobel Peace Prize for solving a war that Russia believes it should have complete control over, not the United States.
Very interesting. By the way, I couldn't care less about a Nobel Peace Prize. If you saw how politicized that whole process is, the fact that President Obama got one a month in, he had to be woken up. He didn't even know what it was for. He still probably doesn't know what it's for because he's not George Bush. But here's our Secretary of Treasury. This gives me hope that we're going to do something. Cut 19.
We are prepared to increase pressure on Russia, but we need our European partners to follow us, because if the U.S. and the EU do this together, we are in a race now between how long can the Ukrainian military hold up versus how long can the Russian economy hold up. And if the U.S. and the EU can come in, do more sanctions, secondary tariffs on the countries that buy Russian oil, the Russian economy will be in full collapse, and that will bring President Putin to the table.
Your thoughts?
You know, I'm reminded of the late, great Secretary of State George Shultz, who used to say negotiations are a euphemism for capitulation if the shadow of power is not cast across the bargaining table. He was not just talking about coercive economic measures. He's also talking about the military. That was what President Reagan did, and it's how we won the Cold War. So I continue to believe that we've got to give Ukraine more weapons to defend themselves. I think Germany needs to give them their long-range Taurus missiles so that Ukraine can strike Russia more effectively. I think it all comes down to that on the battlefield. I'm not that sanguine that secondary sanctions are going to get the job done fast enough. I just think we need to get Ukraine more air defense and more missiles and allow them to shoot at will where they choose. They're in an existential fight. And listen, if Russia does defeat Ukraine, and God forbid that ever happens, Russia will cast a shadow over the rest of Europe and threaten our $1 trillion worth of trade. So that's my concern.
They're already infiltrating the Moldova elections.
Yep.
And I heard, on Friday, we saw a report that we're pulling out troops out of Lithuania and some of the Baltic nations. Are you kidding? What a terrible mess. If that is in fact true, that is insane.
Yeah. Well, this is inexpensive deterrence. If we leave, then we're going to run the risk that we may have to fight a larger and more consequential war than even the one we're fighting in Ukraine, which we don't want to do. I'm not for, any more of repeating some of the mistakes we made in Afghanistan and Iraq. We're not talking about invading some foreign country and trying to bring democracy to Afghanistan or to the Middle East. We're just talking about protecting our national security interests. And I think it would be a grave mistake on our part if we were to withdraw those troops.
I want you to hear what Dave Ignatius said of the Washington Post, cut 23.
Yesterday's attacks were the largest of the war. More than 800 drones, 13 plus missiles. And more notably, they were on many of them were on the center of Kyiv. The Council of Ministers was hit. That's a building that many of us, when we're in Ukraine, go visit officials and has generally not been targeted in the war. What we're seeing is, I think, absolutely decisive, brutal statement by Vladimir Putin that he doesn't want a settlement of the war. He wants to win the war. And he's prepared to keep fighting until he gets what he wants, which is essentially a capitulation by the Ukrainian government on key security issues. He wants effective dominance of Ukraine's military. He certainly wants Ukraine out of NATO.
So the president's hesitant because he knows the minute he gets hits with these heavy sanctions, talks are over. So he's going to call Putin this week. And Dave Ignatius, to his credit, says, I give the president credit for trying to do this, like going to the extra lengths. But now I think the door is closed. I just don't think there's anything else except for saying there's a relentless opponent. He fundamentally is using Ukraine, but really attacks us. They're trying to destabilize us as the number one economic and military superpower in the world, combining with China and North Korea and Iran to do it. So we could keep saying, well, maybe we can talk him out of it. Is it about time to realize, Dan Hoffman, there's no talking him out of it. It's only strength and deterrence.
Look, the more we talk about what we're going to do, the more indication it is for me that we've lost. Russia wants their adversaries to be weak and divided because he knows that together we're stronger and better equipped to protect our internationally recognized borders, freedom of navigation, the free exchange of goods and service on which our economy and the rest of the global economy relies. And all we need right now is some U.S. leadership. Europe is begging for it. Again, we're not talking about U.S. boots on the ground. What we're talking about is just supporting Ukraine and working with Europe to make that happen. If we fail on this one, it's a failure of this administration to get a major foreign policy crisis right. And I really think that's what did in President Biden. The withdrawal from Afghanistan, American people wanted us to leave Afghanistan. An overwhelming majority did. It's the way we did it, and it reflected so badly on the Biden administration's ability to conduct their business. And I just think this would have really negative repercussions on the rest of the Trump administration's term and potentially longer than that. Not to mention, obviously, first and foremost, our national security. So, look, let's lead from the front and do what America's always done, which is to be the arsenal for democracy and stand up to a dangerous dictator who is threatening our interests.
No, absolutely. There's no question about it. And I think we have to do it. We've got to do it quickly. And we got to just show some of the strength. And, there's people in the Pentagon who don't believe Ukraine is our problem. And I hope they're beginning to see how foolish that is, this statement. Just, I don't want any foreign wars. That's a dumb statement, but I keep hearing it. It's not our choice. This is the world we're in. We show weakness, we lose control. And
yeah, I don't want any I don't want any foreign wars. Yeah, I can tell you, my grandparents and my uncles and a whole host of family members fought in the last century in the First World War, and they went back to fight in the Second World War. They didn't want to go have to fight another war, but they did, because we have two choices. We can either choose not to fight, and which is capitulation, or we can fight. I'm sorry, those are two difficult, hard choices. But the third option, which is just to walk away and raise up the drawbridge and think that our country is going to be able to exist as it has before, when the world is so interconnected, I'm so sorry, that's just not an option anymore. It was maybe 2 centuries ago, but not anymore.
How effective do you believe is our intelligence operations right now? How effective do you think the CIA is in talking about understanding fully what Putin's doing, what President Xi is doing, what they're really up to?
I think there's 3 stages here, Brian, for intelligence. The first was to collect the intelligence, human intelligence, sources who tell us what Putin and Xi are up to. And I think that source intelligence has always been pretty exquisite. At the next stage, our analysts will take that and whatever else we have, overhead reconnaissance, signals intelligence, and marry that up to produce the analysis on which the president relies to make decisions. And the third point is, are we making the right executive decisions or not? And that's over to the president and his team. If we succeed in those 3 stages, we have an intelligence success, like when we did the raid on bin Laden, for example. If we don't, if there's a breakdown in any one of those 3, we have an intelligence failure. And that's something that we can't afford right now. But look, I think the president has to be in lockstep with the intelligence community, and they're going to have to tell him things that he needs to know, even when it's not what he wants to hear. And he may have to swivel in a different direction. And I think that's the test of a great leader. The best leaders under whom I served, especially in war zones, were the ones who would willingly accept new information and a swivel in a different direction to protect us.
Listen to Keith Kellogg, the lieutenant general on the ground, even before Donald Trump won. He was working as a private contractor to help them and assess what was going on there. He understands the war, the gravity of it, the damage, the way it's changed over the last 3 years. And he is the person that the president is not really bringing inside, but put him in Ukraine to represent U.S. interests. So I hope he understands that he knows best. And it's not Rick Grinnell, and it's not J.D. Vance. Those guys don't look at Ukraine as a problem. I think it's a huge problem, and I think it is very much in our interest. Dan Hoffman, thanks so much.
Yeah, thanks, Brian.